So in November of 2007, I was a little bit sick. I had a sore throat and so on. I got over that, no problem. In March of 2008, I flicked my hair back one day and I felt a lump in my throat. So I went to my doctor and I asked my doctor what that was about, and he touched it and didn't hurt, didn't feel anything, and he suggested that I try some antibiotics. Perhaps it's a flu or something. And he also at the same time gave me a requisition form to go and have an ultrasound on it in case the antibiotics didn't work. So I decided not to wait, and I went and had the ultrasound done, and one thing led to another, and I was sent to an ear, throat, nose specialist, and they did a biopsy, and they found cancer in my lymph node. So having found cancer in my lymph node, they knew that it had originated from somewhere. So I went into the hospital and I had surgery. They went in and they looked around in my throat and they found that it was actually cancer that originated from my oropharynx, which is where my tonsils used to be. And so I was diagnosed with oropharynx cancer. Well, it was the lymph nodes. I was actually diagnosed with stage 3 cancer in my oropharynx, and stage 3 means that it had traveled. So it was originally in my oropharynx, but by the time they found it, it had developed into my lymph nodes. And so at that point, I think it was about 3 centimeters in my lymph nodes when they found it. So I was 39 years old, and I found out on April 1st of 2008, April Fool's Day on me. And within the same week, my mom was diagnosed with a recurrence of breast cancer. So both of us decided that we would fight this cancer thing together, and at the very end of our fight, we would simply go and do what we loved to do, which was sit in the mall and have ice cream and people watch. Unfortunately, my mom didn't make it, and she passed away when I had, it was just a few days after, I believe it was 11 days after I finished my last radiation treatment. So I had, in my treatment for my cancer was 35 weeks, or 35 radiation treatments and 3 chemo treatments concurrent at the same time. I couldn't eat anything, and I was being fed through a tube directly into my stomach. And that was for quite a few weeks. I, at the same time, lost 40 pounds because I could not eat, and even medication had to be mushed and pushed through the tube into my stomach. So it was it was a horrific time, really. I would go to my doctor's appointments and I would leave with more questions than I really had answers to, and that's where the Canadian Cancer Society came in for me. I would call them, I would research, I would go on to cancer.ca and I would research my type of cancer, different treatments that were available. I really wanted to be an empowered patient. I felt that the more I knew and the more empowered I was, the better chance I had of fighting the fight and winning. Yeah. So my mom and myself were diagnosed in the same week, and my sister-in-law was diagnosed just maybe a couple weeks or a month, not long after that, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer. So there was my mom, myself, and my sister-in-law all with cancer diagnoses within a really short time period.
Yeah. Now, the Cancer Information Service, how did you find out about that? Was it a public service announcement, or did you just proactively find it yourself?
I proactively went and did all the research that I could. I did see things, pamphlets and flyers, and here and there in my travels with different hospitals and so on. But I really, I did a lot of research on the internet, and a Canadian Cancer Society I found to be the most thorough. It dealt with everything you could imagine. So research, and especially the Cancer Information Services, where I could call somebody and speak to them. Yes, I found the Canadian Cancer Society Information Services online in my research, and I used them to gather all sorts of information about my specific diagnosis, the different treatments, as well as having somebody to call after my appointments with the doctors that I could speak to that could answer some of my questions. Absolutely. They actually had a brochure that I found very helpful. They do have a lot of publications, and the brochure, it was a booklet actually, and it helped me when I went to the doctor. I would take it, and it prompted me to ask the questions that I might not think of myself.
Did you become the active um, educational expert for your mom as well? Were you the advocate for the family?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I do. I did for a living. I was an advocate for domestic violence survivors. So I just turned what I knew on for the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'll probably put up some shots of the website. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fabulous website. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you could ever want on there. And so cancer.ca, I mean, how easy is that? It's so easy to remember. And I used to call, they had a service where I could call and I could ask questions. And they're not doctors that are answering the questions, but they're information specialists. And if they didn't know the answer, they would find it for me. But I mean, the website has a plethora of information. It's just outstanding.
So as a survivor, you've become very involved as a volunteer in the Durham region, as a Durham Regional Community Office as well?
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about your volunteering?
Absolutely. I actually got referred there from a gentleman that works with the Durham Hearing Society. I lost some of my hearing as a result of my treatment, and he suggested that I get in touch with the volunteer coordinator there, and I did. Fell in love with everybody that works there, and my baby is, my greatest volunteer participation is with the Taking Steps Against Breast Cancer walk. That occurs every year, and I sit on the committees. I do a lot of fundraising, and I do that in honor of my mom. So we do the Taking Steps Against Breast Cancer walk, and our name is the Jackie Bond Bunch, which is after my mom. So that's a big one that I do. I've done daffodil days. I'll do anything that they ask. You know, so, and I've shared my story. Specifically to try and help other people feel less alone, and to offer them hope, and to know that, you know, there is help out there, a lot of help. But what I love the most about that office is when I go in there and I do any volunteer work with them, I feel on absolute equal level, like the level of respect that they show me, and how grateful they are to have the help. It's like we're all in the fight together, and I love doing anything with any of the people that work there. They're just an incredible bunch. And I rook my whole family into helping out with the big fundraiser, the Taking Steps Against Breast Cancer, and anything to do with the Canadian Cancer Society, because they helped us so much.